good afternoon, and welcome to The Road Ahead. Today with us, we have two very special guests to share with us some very important and innovative things that are happening throughout our state. We have with us Brenda Landers, and Brenda is the Executive Director of the Metro Area on Aging. And we also have Justin Knapp, and Justin is the Project Director for Bridging Resources West Virginia. So welcome.
Thank you for having us.
Yes. So we are very excited about some of the information that you're going to share with us. So I would like us to start out and just tell us, Justin, a little bit about what is Bridging Resources West Virginia?
Bridging Resources West Virginia, or BRWV in short, is a way of transforming long-term services and supports for West Virginians across our great state, whether it be older adults, veterans, individuals with chronic illness, anybody that would need any services across the state. It helps them receive those services in their community, and it reduces a lot of the stress that they might have go through to get those services.
Very good, very good. That sounds like it would be very important for people to be able to have a way to access that. So tell us a little bit more about how does that process work?
So let's say, for example, you have just Susie. Susie is 68 years old, and she needs a ramp built on her house. So across the state, we will have hubs within this system. And the hub, for example, the ADRC, which is the Aging and Disability Resource Center. An individual like Susie were to call that center, and then they would have a conversation. They would start that process of finding the resources available to her in her community. And then this counselor, this community resource specialist, would then be able to build a case or follow a story along with what Susie has to give when she's talking about whether she needs a ramp, or even maybe more when they have this conversation of other things that she might not even realize she needs. So then they actually then bring all those things together, and they present that to herself and their community.
Right, that sounds very, very helpful
Yeah.
to people. And it sounds like the program takes a very person-centered approach. You had mentioned the ADRC, the Aged and Disability Resource Center, and those folks working with individuals. And it does sound very person-centered, tailored to taking care of what that individual would need. Can you talk a little bit more about how they do that?
So let's talk about what is person-centered. So the person-centered approach is an approach where, say that you and I are having a conversation right now, and you're learning about that individual. It's driven by that person, by that West Virginian who needs those services. It gets to them where their services are in their community to help them live independently. So that person-centered approach is about them, and a plan is developed about what their needs are, instead of me just giving you information to then find out for yourself. You actually have somebody who's in your corner, who you can have trust in, and they have compassion, and you build that relationship. So that's that person-centered approach.
And I think that's very important, that an individual that's seeking services and needs some type of support service, that they can connect with someone and have someone that they do feel like they can trust, someone that they can talk to and communicate with. So I think that would be very important for the person that's receiving the services to be able to get connected with the specific resources that they need. And through that person-centered approach, I would think also that sometimes people may have needs that they may not even realize.
Right.
And those trained professionals can help with that. So can you tell me a little bit more about that, and maybe the types of resources that are available?
So one of the things with this system is that there's a powerful network of partners with 5 main stakeholders actually throughout the state: the Bureau of Senior Services, Bureau of Behavioral Health, Metro AAA, the Developmental Disabilities Council. So all of these entities got together and they saw that there was a need. And through those organizations, they then have aligned with partners, other partners throughout the state. to build a network, a strong network. And I know, Brenda, if you like, you can talk about how Metro AAA, how they build onto that.
Right.
Yes.
During
Yes.
COVID, when there was such a need that there was no system in place that one person could call and get an array of services. So we saw a need and we went with the no wrong door approach and wrote a grant to get the software to implement the no wrong door.
And it definitely sounds like it is a collaborative effort. And you had mentioned the key stakeholders. Tell us again, who are those key stakeholders?
Well, just let me carry off of what Brenda said. She said when
Sure.
she says no wrong door approach, it is an approach. It's a nationwide approach.
Right.
When we're looking at when you can access this system through different providers, and when we talk about the key partners, the Bureau of Senior Services, Bureau of Behavioral Health, Bureau of Medical Services, Developmental Disabilities Council, and Metro AAA.
Well, and it does definitely sound like with those stakeholders, there's a good representation of all of those key entities within our state that are working with folks and connecting them with services, providing them with things that they need. So it sounds like it's very collaborative and it has expanded into definitely the right group of people that
Absolutely.
can help.
Yes.
Yes.
We actually, through this group of people over the past year, we have been collaborating. We've actually, we're now in the process of doing a media campaign. It's actually a Home for the Holidays. You know, it's a lot of media campaign where it talks about the needs and services of those individuals in the communities. I don't know if you want to talk about that
Sure.
media campaign.
And the campaign is so when children are coming home for the holidays that they can look at their parents and see, has something changed since the last time that they were home? And we're just trying to make people aware of what things to look for, such as if there's unopened mail or if the house seems to be a little bit out of order, more than usual during Christmas, because everybody's house during Christmas is somewhat in disarray. But you want to look at those things to say, does it seem like this is not the way Mom or Dad or Aunt Susie or somebody usually keeps house? And then looking at grocery supplies, because as seniors get older, sometimes that's the first thing they cut back on is groceries. Are they eating well? Does it look like they're well stocked? Looking at their health, do you see missed appointments, or do you see unopened mail? Looking at their car, do you notice unusual dents, if they're still driving? And if they're not driving, how are they getting to appointments? How are they getting to the grocery store, to the pharmacies? So that's just a short list, but it's a good start to kind of open your eyes to see where Mom and Dad are at. And also just being involved sometimes, I think, really makes you aware. And I think that it just helps also your parents to realize I'm not alone, and we will get through this.
I think that sounds like such a good strategic plan to do a campaign noting home for the holidays, noting and targeting those children or grandchildren or loved ones that don't get to see their loved one often. And when they come home and being able to be aware of some of those types of things, they may not know what types of resources are out there and available. Oftentimes, your loved ones live in a different state. So knowing that you all are setting this up to just be so thorough, to
Right.
involve so many different people, because oftentimes the person or individual who needs the help may not be the one that wants to ask for
Right.
help,
Yeah.
or maybe they don't realize that they need that help.
Right,
And
right.
on that note, so it's not just for that consumer or the West Virginian that needs it. It's for anybody, if you have a neighbor and you're concerned about that, because this is about caregivers, this is about families, this is about community. One of the things that West Virginians are very strong on are their community, and that's what we're trying to build off on, is to bring everybody involved and say, hey, you know, we like to take care of each other in West Virginia, and this will build on to that, to show that the community supports them and rallies around them.
Yeah.
And also children living out of state. and have been gone for a number of years don't realize what resources are available. So they may call our resource center to say, you know, my parents, my aunt, uncle live in West Virginia, but we're not familiar with the services that you offer or what's available. And so those resource counselors are trained to help them find those resources. So we do get a lot of calls from out-of-state individuals needing those resources.
And even more onto that is that the fact that it's not just somebody they can call and then they will just get just one conversation.
Right.
With this system, there's follow-up. You know, so if you have a loved one or the son or the daughter, they're out of state, they can rely on it to be able for these resource specialists to actually follow up with whoever they're referring and making sure that they're actually getting the services that have been promised or that they've requested. That, you know, so that they're not falling through the cracks. They're, you know, they're not waiting on a wait list for months without having the services they need. There's somebody who actually cares and that they were following up with them to make sure that they're getting that stuff.
Yeah, and I think that is a very important piece to know, that there is that follow-up, that circle back around, making sure that people don't fall through the cracks, because I know sometimes with programs, inevitably that may happen sometimes. So to know that you're building something from the ground up that's closing some of those gaps and taking just an approach in the beginning to try to prevent some of those issues sounds like a very wonderful thing.
And that goes on that person-centered approach. That's where it comes full circle, because it's about the end individual. It's not just giving them a phone number to call and say, here you go. You know, it's actually going through if they need to fill out forms, Medicaid form, Medicare forms, or they need to fill out applications for things, because a lot of the times when people are put in these situations, they didn't plan for that. You know, our parents, our children, anybody, loved one, they could be put in this situation tomorrow that they need these long-term services and supports. And a lot of times they don't know where to turn. So a great place is to start through this system and know that there are people who care and there are people who want to get you the service you need. And the fantastic thing about it is unbiased. We are not here trying to promote any particular service or any particular brand. We're here to just get the resources that are in your community to you.
And I wanted to say that a lot of seniors, if we did just give them a number, just a referral, and they call that number, then they get another number, and pretty soon they just give up. They just feel so helpless. So it is important that we do that follow-up to make sure that they did get the services that they need, because it's just overwhelming when you're in that position.
And even more so with that, when she made a great point about how you call and call again. The great thing with this is that the information follows the individual.
Right.
So they don't have to tell their story several times. And so that's where that person-centered approach comes in, where you tell your story once, and then that community resource specialist then helps you to connect with those other referral agencies or those other providers in your community to provide those services. And then you don't have to continue. I like to tell people it's like calling a utility company or a phone company, where you call somebody and you tell it once, and then they're like, oh, we need to transfer you, and then you tell it again. So you don't have to do that. It reduces that stress level.
Yeah, that to me that is something that is just wonderful to know, that you would only have to tell your story once, because that is when you need help like that, whether you are the individual or the caregiver or the concerned neighbor, it's a very vulnerable time for everybody, and to have to make multiple phone calls and tell that story multiple times, it can give you that feeling of just being defeated and not being able to follow through and get the things that you need. So just to know the other thing, that with your program, that up front you all are training people and training these counselors not only on the resources that are available to them, but just training them on how to work with people, how to talk with people, how to support them where they are. I think that is a very,
because a lot of people call just calling for one thing, transportation. And through that process of having trained counselors, that they can ask them a series of questions. And then at the end of that conversation, they find out that they need more than just
Right.
transportation.
Yeah.
There's a whole gamut of things that they can offer. So I think that's one of the best things about having resource counselors is
Yeah.
they are trained and can offer that service.
Well, I think what we'll do right now is just take a break, and when we come back, I would like us to talk more about some of those specific services and things that are out there available to people. So, all right, thank you.
Maintaining your independence and living safely at home is important, and those special moments with family are what makes life worthwhile. But occasionally, everyone could use a helping hand, whether it's Medicare counseling, transportation, in-home care, home-delivered meals, transitioning from long-term care, adult day care, and more. West Virginia Aging and Disability Resource Centers connects older adults, persons living with disabilities, and caregivers to the long-term services and support they seek.
Hello, and welcome back to The Road Ahead. I'm Denise Worley, the Commissioner for the West Virginia Bureau of Senior Services, and with me this afternoon is Brenda Landers, the Executive Director for the Metro Area Agency on Aging, and Justin Knapp, the Project Director for Bridging Resources West Virginia. And so we've talked a lot about all of the services, the program, and the way that it's going to try to connect people with services that are needed. And I thought maybe we could talk a little bit more about what are some of the services that are out there and available to people?
That's a great question. So one of the things that we, over the past year, we have developed a system pretty much a database, a resource center. So actually we have a website, it's br-wv.org. And what somebody can go on there, they can actually see a lot of the services and resources that are in their community. They can actually put in their zip code and it will populate what resources are available there. Because a lot of people, and we talk about them calling and having that person approach, some people, they just need that information. And some people don't want to call. So we give them the ability to access that information online. And within that process, we have a short, free questionnaire just to help them narrow down and see what services they actually do need. It's a 13-question questionnaire, very simple and very quick, and it'll be able to help them figure out what's in their community, what resources are available, and then even at the end of it, if they want to call, they can still have the ability. We have a contact us page on there where they can send in information, and then we'll actually have somebody from one of the, like the ADRC, for example, reach out to them to talk to them.
And I think the idea that they can get onto a website and navigate through that is definitely a very good thing, because like we talked about earlier, sometimes the people themselves may not be searching for the help, but someone is doing that search on their behalf. They're trying to help them.
Right.
And we all have crazy busy schedules, and sometimes it's hard to make those phone calls. So to be able to get on a website and to go through that website, answer some questions, get that feedback, could really allow somebody to have a lot of information to get started. And then you had mentioned that sometimes the counselors may call them back based on, can you tell me a little bit more about that?
So if somebody were to want more information or more assistance, and not just because it's like I said, it's a person-centered approach. So depending on what that individual would want, or the loved ones or neighbors, what information they want, they can reach out to them and supply that information. It's like, hey, this is where I live, this is what I'm looking for, can somebody please call me back? And yes, so then the ADRC, for example, will then call them and then help them navigate the resources. Because like I said before, usually when people get put into this situation where they need these services, It's a lot. It's a very daunting process. They've never done it before, and we actually have a lot of experts and that have the information available to them to help people reduce the stress. And we have a lot of great stories and from individuals who have received those stories. I don't know, Brenda, you want to talk about anybody who we've had that's had like some really
Sure.
success?
Yeah, we've had a lot of success stories, but one that comes to my mind is a gentleman that came in looking for help for his brother. And he came in for one specific thing, and I think it was just looking for transportation. And as he sat down to talk to the resource counselor, and they began to talk, they were looking, I think, for transportation, but also some housing. And they were transforming a garage, I believe, that he was going to be able to live in. Anyway, at the end of the day, they were able to help him with a lot of those needs to get him back into that house that they were working on, and also that his sister was now going to become his paid caregiver, and they weren't sure how they were going to work all of that out. He was able to get every item. We came in for one thing, but when he left, he just had a whole gamut of items that he didn't even know existed. So they were able to meet that plus more. And the very next day, we received a little box of donuts because he cried. He was so happy. He said, "I just never dreamed that I would be able to get all of this." He said, "I came in here just." He didn't know where to go, so he came in just for that one thing. But he actually broke down and cried in the office, and then the next day we received a box of donuts because he was just so happy that we were able to meet those. So,
And what most people in West Virginians don't realize is that those resources are in their community. They just don't know how to access them, or they don't know what's available to them. And being able to, and that's what I've heard, and from the specialists that they. People will come in and they will be surprised, like that's available to me. They didn't know it was available to them,
Right.
you know. And it's just it takes a little bit of just conversation to get that process started.
and you mentioned earlier about putting in a zip code. So if I live out of state and my mother lives here, and I don't have any idea, I can just put in her zip code and all of these services would pop up. Especially if I'm looking for something in particular, I put in the zip code. If I'm looking for transportation, if I'm looking for a home delivered meal, and I put in her zip code, all of that's going to come up. So you don't even have to do that assessment if you're just looking for resources. And so you'll know exactly what's in your community, not statewide, but it's more specific to where you live or where your loved one lives.
And I think that makes the program feel so much warmer and
Yeah.
very
Personable, yeah.
personable and very, very, very personal. And I just really like that concept of getting that follow-up like we discussed earlier from the counselors, and also knowing that you can search the website, request a call back, and you receive that call back. That's a warm feeling, because I feel like oftentimes people may want that support and want that assistance, and you can navigate through a website, but taking that next step and making that call can be very difficult depending on your relationship with the person you're trying to support. It could just be a very emotional and a challenging time. So to know that there are trained professionals, that you all are starting a program from the ground up and putting all of these trained professionals in place to, as we talked about, closing gaps and following up with people, I think just makes the program sound very unique, because to be able to get that follow-up, to get that phone call from someone asking you what you need, sometimes I think could be a little easier than making that phone call and stating what you need. It's like somebody's checking in on you.
And we try to return those calls in a timely manner, because we get people calling to say, "Hey, I called this agency 5 days ago and I still haven't heard from anybody." And when you're in that person, as Justin said, when you're in need and you don't know where to turn, you're looking for a quick answer. So we try to return all those phone calls in a real timely manner. So
I think
that people aren't
that's
sitting there
so
waiting.
important. So
Yeah.
important.
Yeah, we want to set a standard that your needs are our needs. You know, we want to make sure that we get what you want. And I think the word's been thrown around counselor when we talk about counselors, and I want people to understand that when they think of that term counselor. It's not somebody who's providing them counseling. It's somebody who's just walking them through the process of long-term services and supports in their communities. You know, they are helping counsel through that progress, because it is a stressful applying for those programs, Medicaid, Medicare, filling all those applications to see what you're approved for, your financial eligibility. It's difficult, you know, and being thrown into it and just from today to tomorrow, it's a lot to ask.
Well, I definitely commend you all for all of the efforts and just the outside the box type of thinking as you're building a program. Because there are a lot of programs out there that have been going on for a while. This one's a little newer, but to know how strong that it already is, the foundation that you all are laying, the importance that you're placing on people. I think it makes the program very unique, and I also think it speaks to the way West Virginians do programs, because you said it best earlier. West Virginia people, we're a strong-knit community. We help each other. So to know that that this network is being put together is, I think it's an amazing thing.
And I want to stress that it's just not about the individual. It's about the community around them, about their neighbors, about their any caregivers, anybody that goes to church. Anybody in that community can be a part of this system. So that's why we always look out for each other. You know, that's what West Virginians do the best. We look out for each other, and this just builds off of that.
And then people that are able to receive services, they can share that with others and hopefully be able to ease some apprehension that other people may have, that they would feel more comfortable reaching out, or adult children communicating with each other, knowing someone else got help for their mom and now there's help for them. So I think it's very good. So I know you had mentioned the website and there's phone numbers and things. So can we just review those and make sure that everyone has the information they need if they would want to reach out?
Yes, as I said, the website is br-wv.org. You can actually find us on Facebook. It's at Bridging Resources WV.
That's very good. I think that it's really important for people to know that this program is out there. I thank you all very much for coming and being a part of this and being able to get the word out there and let people know what's going on in their communities, what types of resources are available. So thank you both very much.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you all for joining us, and we will see you the next time on The Road Ahead.